My name is Sergeant Andrew Turco.
I'm Suzanne Blake. I head up MIT Emergency Management.
Thank you for joining us for the Active Shooter Violent Intruder Awareness Training.
So we reference an FBI report that is available online. It's a study of active shooter incidents from 2000 to 2013. Clearly other incidents have happened since then, but they really took those incidents, it was 160 incidents, and they tried to analyze some patterns and some things that were happening there so that we could get some information for training and making sure we're more prepared for the next one. How they define an active shooter in that report is an individual or individuals actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. And the difference here versus something like an armed robbery or a targeted act of violence where there is a shooting is that their goal is to kill as many people as possible. So they don't care what's in their way, they just want as many people as possible in the short time as possible. And it implies that there's a firearm being used, but this definition can also be applied to the violent intruder side of things where they could be using a car, they could be using a knife, something like that. But their goal is the same, that they're trying to kill as many people as possible. This is a graph that we took from the FBI report, and if you want to look it up, that's the title right there. It's publicly available. You can read it if you'd like. But this graph in particular, we wanted to show, again, that it can happen in a variety of different places, but that education, you'll see, is a big chunk of the pie there. So active shooter incidents, we are unfortunately very vulnerable as being a higher education institution, and also K through 12 is included in that. And I would argue that after 2013, there were several more at higher education institutions, so that slice of pie might be a little bit bigger. So we are vulnerable here. We have an open campus. We have a young population that could be a target for violence. And so unfortunately we are a target, but it is still very rare.
And we understand that some of the stuff and some of the information that we're going to give you is pretty charged and it can be upsetting. And so what we want you to do is think about active shooter situations the way you think about lightning. So I'm assuming no one here has been struck by lightning, right? Okay. And so, but if you're outside and you see thunderheads forming, certain things occur to you. I'm not going to go swimming. It's not a good time to go golfing. If we're going to the beach, we're probably going to turn the car around, right? And so we want you to think about active shooter situations in a similar way. We don't want you constantly walking around afraid of active shooters. But we want you to have the tools in mind so that if something like this were to ever happen, however unlikely, you have the skills and abilities to kind of make some decisions and decide what to do. Okay?
In almost all cases, there's not a statistical number out there, but in almost all cases of active shooter incidents, there was some sign beforehand that people in hindsight could recognize, oh yeah, this was happening. So we want you to be aware of some of these signs. Again, we don't want you to be paranoid about them, looking for them all the time, but just some things that you might notice if someone's headed in this direction. And we place a heavy emphasis at MIT as far as prevention in this regard. So we make a conscious effort to recognize at-risk individuals, and I know you all are a part of this, being part of DSL, recognizing the warning signs, getting help for the individuals that need it and the appropriate help. We also have a behavioral assessment and response team, and this is actually something that came out of the Virginia Tech incident. All universities are required to have this type of team to where they can look at potential threats and evaluate them, and then do whatever they need to do to mitigate that threat, whether it's getting help for the person or talking to the person, anything like that. And actually, Judy is part of the BART team, and they meet on a very regular basis. They get extensive training every year on how to do this, so they're constantly working at that. We also have a lot of reporting mechanisms, so we always want you to contact MIT Police with any concerns that you have. And if you don't feel comfortable for some reason contacting MIT Police, you can always contact HR for an employee issue or DSL for student issues and your reporting mechanisms within DSL.
One of the things we want people to think about and that we really try to push in our presentations is don't wait. Don't wait for something bad to happen. If there's something that makes you uneasy, if there's something that makes you feel unsafe, contact someone. We would recommend giving us a call. If you're not comfortable calling the police department, contact HR, contact someone in the student life office. But it's important that for the BART team to work most effectively is for them to have the most amount of information at the earliest possible time. So it enables a BART team to be able to look at all the information and take it all in and make a reasonable, educated strategy for what to do going forward. If people wait before they report stuff and you just get a bunch of information late in the game when interventions could have happened earlier, you're not as able to work as effectively.
So we also have background checks for a lot of physicians here at MIT, and the mental health resources on this campus are great. We obviously have the counseling services at MIT Medical for students, and then we also have this wonderful service called MIT My Life Services, where we have a phone number that we can call as employees to get help with virtually anything. I mean, you can get advice on buying a new home, financial advice, legal advice, or mental health services, and they'll connect you with the appropriate service that you need. So we have a lot of resources on this campus. We want to make sure we're using them before anyone sort of gets into the situation where they feel like violence is the best solution.